Call me order to stand the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Jenny.
Mayor McCullough,
Here.
Councilmembers Robinson,
Here.
Franco,
Here.
Vogel,
Here. All right, we'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Do we have a motion?
Make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson, do we have a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Vogel. Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Then under the consent agenda, we're gonna pull item A, from Mr. Vogel, said he wasn't here, so he did not want to vote on that. So we'll entertain a motion to, approve tonight's consent agenda items B through L. Do we have a motion?
I wanted to speak on.
We'll get that.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I'll make that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Vogel, and discussion.
I just wanted to let people know that we don't take things very lightly here. Two of the things on our consent agenda. Again, a consent agenda is usually things that are not minor, but just not of major importance to spend a lot of time on, but they still mean something. In this case, we have furniture expenditure as well as appliance expenditures for the new building. I want to personally thank the ladies who are involved, Kate and Jane, and whoever else was on the committee, or spent the time, the effort, the manpower, woman power, the miles and the time, probably before work or after work and during work, to get the job done. Both expenditures exceed $100,000 each. We have budgeted for that. And to be noted that the furniture, also, some of the stuff was picked up from Target headquarters, or will be refurbished from Target headquarters in downtown Minneapolis. So there was money saved. If anybody who takes the time, or who watches this broadcast right now, or take the time to read the contents of our packet, they'll see the numbers broken down for everyone to see and what it's all about. And I just want people to know that we don't take this, lightly. They did some good due diligence, they saved some money, they worked hard at it. And again, I'll harken back to a story from 3 weeks ago. I was in the barber shop and some gentleman came in and said, "Hey, can you tell me who decided to build that Taj Mahal?" And I stood proudly and said, "I voted for it, and I'll tell you why." I said, 18 months we've been working on this plus and whatnot, and the need and the necessity of it, not just to do it just to do it. But a lot of time never went into the construction as a whole, but in this case, I just want to recognize the people who worked on these two items. And again, it's not just a rubber stamp, we're passing it through. It's laid out fair and proper, and they did their homework, and we stayed, within budget for what had to be done. So again, thank you guys for doing the work. That's all.
Well said, thank you, Kevin.
Mayor, I have just a couple questions on it. I apologize because I know I'm walking into this later here, but one of them was, F, I'm just curious about the appliances. I noticed it was like 3.5 refrigerators and 2 dishwashers, whatever. I just like to know where they're being placed, what their uses are, and then I'd also like to know, do we not have refrigerators now that are too old, or what's happening with our current refrigerators? So I don't know who wants to address.
So, yep, Mayor and Council, I can take that one. So currently, the new building has a staffing break room for the administration. It has a day room for fire, and then it has kind of a kitchenette that's off of the council with a small meeting room. So all of the appliances that currently are being purchased, because what we have currently at City Hall, we don't have anything but kind of a smaller size refrigerator. And it has some mechanical problems, so it's not even a refrigerator we can really take over without some substantial repairs. But all of them will be placed in the new building, we don't have anything else.
Well, all the old ones are.
We really don't have any old ones, all we have is a refrigerator. So currently there aren't any dishwashers, there aren't any ranges. The extractor is extremely dated, but that is on a separate ticket. We don't have the washing machines, in place now. So a lot of this is new, that either has to be replaced because it's aged out, such as our refrigerator, or it's something we haven't had.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. So you're gonna abstain from this one, item A.
Correct.
I'll ask for a motion to approve item A. Councilman-
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Cresswell. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Vote, 3 with 1 abstention. All right, moving on to meeting open to the public. Who do we have?
Hunter Carlson.
So my name is Hunter Carlson. I live at 2612 230th Court here in St. Francis. So today I come to speak on the leash law that we have in St. Francis compared to other towns in the surrounding area. So from my understanding, it says that under restraint, so to be compliant with the law, you have to have a dog by a leash not exceeding 6 feet in length or at heel, and of a person of suitable age, and voice commands. So I couldn't necessarily do something like Ramsey, where I could just have them under voice commands. I would have to have them also in the term heel that you guys don't define it. So. What I provided is just a breakdown of all the other cities, and beyond that, I'm open to any questions you guys have.
All right. I guess what is your main purpose for bringing this up?
Main purpose is that the word heel is not used in any other city that I looked at, and that it's actually more restrictive compared to other cities. And then in terms of the length as well, 6 feet is more restrictive than a more populous city like Anoka, for example. So what I'm asking for is that we make this leash law not as restrictive as other cities, especially because according to like what I wrote down, St. Francis is way more restrictive than other cities around us. And then additionally, Anoka County Park leash law doesn't limit, it's not on your guys' sheet, but it doesn't limit the length of a leash. It says that it has to be on a leash, because we do have a lot of Anoka County parks, so.
Any questions, Mark?
Again, there are no more discussion, I don't know. Legal, I don't know. Legalize under.
Kevin, do you have any questions?
Not really, it's something, I guess it's something we can look at. Hey, can you tell the last time this is even peaked at as far as housekeeping goes when we do red line stuff? And
Mayor and council, I don't know how old this leash law is, and I don't know
I'm pretty sure it's
Chief would know.
2015.
if 15.
Mhm.
So typically our leash laws would be an act that's corrected through the police department. This is our nuisance code in section 8.
I'm not sure what we're doing in 2015. This looks pretty similar to what it's always been, and there might have been some minor revisions in 2015, but this is pretty typical language that I'm used to, since I've been here, so, again, but it's something we can certainly discuss. There seems to be a need to get this, updated, or I guess, see some, if there's been some issues or things that have arose because of our current leash restrictions or.
So I guess what my point is like, I don't think we've had any problems with this, so I don't see an issue with making it less restrictive, we do have the occasional dogs that run around the. This law wouldn't protect them from being fined for that. This is more of those people like me that want to walk on the trails in St. Francis and be able to do, like some actual obedience, besides just obedience training, just being able to do voice commands without having them like heel by my side, and like, go sniff and whatnot. But beyond that, I wouldn't be able to do that legally in St. Francis. So compared to like in Ramsey or East Bethel or Hamlin.
Mayor, I think we could, the next work session, we use about 15 minutes to chat about it and see if we're doing something, I mean, that's been a
I have
concern.
no idea what's on the work session right now.
I've been down the road, I know this, again, the
Right.
gentleman said it wasn't a pressing issue, but
Crystal, did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Also, Crystal, just so you know, I did email it to you, so hopefully you did get that, so you could look at it.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, we'll look it over. You just, the young man just handed this to us before the meeting, so I haven't even had a chance to review it, so. We'll definitely look into it, Hunter, and see if we can put it on a work session or something.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else? All right. Moving on to public hearing, item A. CIP 2025-2029 hearing and approval.
Mayor and council, before you tonight is the capital improvement plan for 2025 to 2029. Once a year per city charter, the city has to update this plan, get it out to you. We have to get it out to council by June 30th, which we did. We put it on the website and let you guys know. And then by August 15th of the year, we have to approve. We have to have a public hearing and then approve the plan. This plan covers capital equipment, buildings, street, parks, and enterprise funds. The capital equipment fund includes all equipment for admin, police, fire, and for public works. This fund has a levy of $360,000 in 2025, and then transfers of $20,000. 10,000 from each water and sewer goes into there. And that's supposed to jump in a couple of years too. The building fund covers large maintenance costs on the police public works building and the new city hall fire station when that is up and running. Say roofs or anything major expenses. The levy for 2025 is proposed at $25,000 to go into there. Remember, that's where the levy, we had raised it to account for the debt service on the new city hall fire station, but now that's moved, that levy has been moved over to the debt service. The levy for, the street fund covers all the street related costs, and has an associated levy of $600,000. Doesn't include the water and sewer that's and stuff underneath the streets. And then finally, the park fund has a levy of $200,000 for park improvements. After the public hearing has been completed, council will have to approve the CIP, and I would ask the mayor to open the public hearing, and then we can have questions afterwards.
Sounds good. So we will open the public hearing on the CIP 2025-2029 at 6:12. Anybody that would like to speak, please come up to the podium, state your name and address. Say whatever you want. Seeing none, we will close this public hearing at 6:13 p.m. Questions, comments, concerns, Crystal?
No, I don't have any.
Kevin?
Darcy answered some of the questions I had, and again, it's kind of, would you agree, Darcy, it's a fluid document, it gives us a plan, it's a plan. It's not written in stone, and things can go up and things can go down, they don't even go down. But we are having, there's measures in there, like, we have leased vehicles now instead of purchased vehicles, so there's a company that's taking care of, you know, with a certain mileage, the vehicles get rolled out and whatnot, we're maximizing our value as far as vehicles go, whether it's a public works item or a police item or whatever, but, that's really, I looked it over, and again, I encourage anybody, you can find it, just like Darcy said in the back, you go to the city webpage and go into finances and get into the back, it's interesting reading, I'm sure Mr. Vogel will be cutting his teeth on it shortly, if not, he hasn't done so already. And, so that's all, Mayor, thank you.
Questions, comments, concerns?
It's just an initial look, so I apologize for that. So just, I'm looking at the street fund cash flow, capital improvement total liabilities and fund balance, and it looks like 2025 and 2026 are outliers. On the total liabilities and fund balance. Am I missing something here?
The. Down to the street fund.
One thing I will say too, I know in particular, there's certain years, like you'll notice, like the police budget, where they plan for big purchases, certain years will go up periodically.
Yeah, so we accumulate money and then we might use it all in 1 year and then it'll drop drastically because we have a big project that year. So that is just accumulating the money for future projects.
Anything else? All right. I was just curious, I guess, so I know we planned for, say, I don't remember exactly which one off the top of my head, but there's one fund that goes up like 40,000 every year. Like the street fund goes up, we want to add more every year, and I know costs go up and we got inflation and everything that contributes to that. I was just curious, is there like a cap on that, or is there a reason that it goes up, like arbitrarily every year, or are we gonna, I'd like to ask Paul, like for the streets, but he's not here tonight, so.
Well, when we put these in place, that's just how the cash flow worked out with all the projects. And right now, I don't know that there is a,
More department specific.
yeah, a real good stopping point. At some point, yes,
Right.
we're gonna get to where we're covering everything. But we wanted to take it slowly. That's when we put in the street fund and actually started funding the capital equipment. We just wanted to build up to that. And so we even did we did the plan based on that we were gonna grow it each year, the levy.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, cost of living.
Right, no, I get that, and I know that, our former, public works director put together the street plan, which I'm very thankful for. Again, something that I think is well needed. A lot of people just assume that their taxes go to roads, and they didn't used to. Here you would get assessed for that. Now your taxes do go to roads to help pay for those. So I think that's just it's a great plan to have, but that is all I have. So with that, we will go ahead.
I'm sorry, one question here, just curious, I would like to see this city and all cities for that matter get to that point. I realize we've got a long way to go, but in that plan, do we have something along the lines of to build a new city hall in 50 years, kind of fund?
We haven't funded that because right now, there's the mentality of they're already paying for one. Do we double it up and make them pay for the next one? Hopefully the building fund will accumulate some money as we go and we won't have to put so much money into maintenance. And so we would accumulate some money to help with the next building, but we're not going to be able to fund, I don't think, like we'll never get another $16-20 million built up in there before the next building. I can't imagine it.
Those buildings gonna last 100 years.
Yeah.
Well, the other reason I asked that is simply because I'm just tired of paying the debt. I mean, when we do all these projects, it's debt, and we're paying interest on it, so
Yep.
I recognize what you're saying, of course, we can't double down.
And that's when we went to the street fund, we didn't have that much debt for it, and so it was, can we do this so that we don't have to be issuing debt for all these projects? Because there's a lot of cities that they issue a bond for every single year that they do street projects, and their debt service levies are higher than their general fund levies, and here we don't. We have, for streets, we have a levy of $20-some thousand, and that was the last street that we did assessments on.
One thing, Mayor.
Absolutely.
Also, a couple of years ago, if I recall, you consolidated, not you, but we consolidated, a bond was retired early. And that money then rolled back into our general fund, didn't we? Didn't.
Well, we redid some bonds and got a better rate.
Okay.
But they were for the police public works building, that bond, and then there was a street and then some utility bonds in there also.
Okay.
So, that one, the street portion is done. But the other portion, which is non-tax levy, is still going for a few years.
But we took advantage of some financial situations to help better our situation as well.
Yeah, the bond consultant always is looking and seeing if there's a refinance, if it makes sense to refinance a bond. And right now, he's been saying that.
And as far as buildings go, like Councilman Vogel, is there any buildings that are down the road, any well houses or pump houses or?
Well, well houses and pump houses would be coming through the enterprise funds, so they are covered by the levy, so those are through each individual fund.
Okay,
So that's where that is accounted for.
good answer. All right, that's all. Thank you. Sheila, Mark.
Anything else? Crystal, anything else?
No,
With that, we'll entertain a motion to approve, the 2025-2029 CIP.
Chair,
Yeah,
just a reminder, because we do have someone on Zoom, you do a
Roll
roll call with each vote.
that's right, sorry. I haven't been on this side before. I'm usually on her side. So we'll do a roll call, we have a motion for approval.
I'll make that motion here.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Vogel, and we'll do a roll call vote.
Mayor Miller,
Aye.
Councilmembers Robinson,
Aye.
Vogel,
Aye.
Freckles,
aye.
All right, motion passes. Don't have to redo the other one.
I took a roll here on what everybody was voting.
Okay, so we're covered. Thank you. Okay, Sam, used to being on the other side of the Zoom, so. Item B, Rivers Edge, 7th edition, ordinance 332, amending the Rivers Edge planning and development first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Council, before you tonight are actually four kind of interrelated requests, all dealing with the 7th edition of the Rivers Edge development. So, the first request before you is an amendment to the Rivers Edge planned unit development. This amendment is kind of twofold. One would expand the existing PUD boundary to incorporate about 2.5 acres of land along Rum River Boulevard. The other piece of this amendment is a request to reduce the side yard setbacks for the villa lots that would be incorporated into the 7th edition. The second request is an easement vacation, a drainage utility easement vacation. That tonight, as a reminder, does require a public hearing. So after this presentation, we'll need to open that. The third request is the actual final plat for the 7th edition itself. And then that fourth request is the development agreement that's related to the final plat. So I'll be talking a little bit about all four of these. But just as some background before we jump in, this is the original preliminary plat for the Rivers Edge development that was approved back in 2018. You can see that there are 220 lots, almost 100 acres of land. From that original preliminary plat, this is what it currently looks like today. So the colored lots you can see kind of in the center portion of the development, those have all been final platted. Many have been built out already. And then the kind of blank edges on the east and west ends, those are additions that are still to be platted. So the 7th edition I'll be talking about tonight is on the east end there. Oh, yep, right there. For the PUD amendment, that first part of that amendment request is related to expanding the boundary. The existing boundary of the Rivers Edge PUD is that thick black line that you can see. The additional land that would be incorporated as part of this amendment is in blue. So it's that very eastern edge. And that was land that was originally city owned, which is why it wasn't originally included in the PUD. It was, however, originally included in the preliminary plat. So this land has always been incorporated into the design of the development. It just wasn't incorporated into the PUD itself. I will note that in 2021, when the city did kind of the wholesale update to the city's zoning map, those eastern 2.5 acres were actually rezoned to PUD. However, they weren't specifically rezoned to the Rivers Edge PUD. So if someone were to come in and not have the history that current staff do, you wouldn't know what PUD it belongs to. So this is really a housekeeping item, just to make sure that we all understand that this is part of the Rivers Edge specific planned unit development. And as I already mentioned, this was, originally incorporated into the 2018 plans for this area. So the second part of that PUD amendment request is related to, a reduction in side yard setbacks, specifically for the villa lots. You can see the requested change there. It would be reducing from the current 7.5 foot side yard setback to a 6 foot side yard setback. And the developer has let us know that this is a request that's really coming from the builders in the development. So this is related to just current building practices and the builders seeing a demand for kind of wider building pads. And so in order to get that wider building pad, they're proposing to reduce the side yard setbacks. A 6 foot side yard setback on both sides still ensures the 12-foot building separation that's required by code. So staff is supportive of this request. This doesn't change the overall design of that part of the development. It doesn't add lots, it doesn't take any away. It's really just shifting those side yard setbacks a little bit. So moving on to the second request here. There is a drainage and utility easement today that's over that red portion of the site that you can see that's kind of colored in on the screen. It's about 4.5 acres. And that land was platted as an outlot as part of the second edition of River's Edge. And as part of being platted as an outlot, there was a drainage utility easement established over that because that was one way that the city wanted to ensure that that land would not get built upon until there was a final plat in place. So this is the practice that we have been using with this development as we've moved through. Every time there's an outlot that is then being final platted, we vacate the easement and then establish the new easements with that new final plat. And so that's the practice that's requested here tonight as well. For the final plat itself, this includes the remainder of the villa lots on the east end of the development. So it's 23 villa lots, and then it's the extension of that street. I believe we're calling it Lily Street. So it's that yellow area that you can see in the bottom left of the screen. And then the lots are a little bit more detailed there on the right. So this is something that staff is supportive of. This conforms to that original preliminary plat that was approved back in 2018. And then we do have the development agreement as well. That's tied to this. Happy to answer questions about that as well. So Planning Commission reviewed the PUD amendment portion of this request at their July meeting. They held the public hearing for that and unanimously recommended approval. Just as a reminder, the Planning Commission does not review the easement vacations or the final plats. That's something that really just is something that goes to council. And so they didn't look at that or offer any recommendations for that portion of the request. And so I've got the suggested motions on the screen tonight. They're also in your packet, but those two little yellow highlights are slight changes. So the motions on the screen are the correct motions tonight. And I'm happy to answer any technical or clarification questions before you open the hearing.
Crystal? Do you have any questions, Crystal?
No, I don't have any questions.
Kevin?
No, sir, I have no questions.
Neither do I. So with that, I guess we will open the public hearing, for vacating the drainage and utility easement over L11D, second edition of River's Edge. We'll open that at 6:28. And go through this again. Hey, we got somebody.
Okay, I also reside at 23563 Marigold Street. So with this plan, I know it's not technically what public meetings for, but originally it was planned that there was going to be a road there additionally, so I don't know what happened to that. I was curious about that. If you go back to slide 8, you can see that the what I'm discussing right there. Oh, you can. I think it was right 9. So you can look at the bottom of the red there, there's actually a connected to Rum River Boulevard there that was started. And I don't know what happened to that not being a part of the actual development. So that's really what my question is.
So Mayor and Council, I can take that one. So what that is it's in the county right of way. It was never intended to be a road. It was just a temporary access when there used to be a property there. So the county was very clear, that went away once this development got through. The only reason it's been used since 2018 is we were able to keep the developer access and building access to that small right of way that comes off of Rum River Boulevard, just so we didn't damage the streets long-term that were being put in as a development group. So its intent was to never have that as an access beyond the development of this area.
Just piggybacking off of that, is because this is a very big neighborhood now, and living on Marigold Street, it's already very hectic of that other one. So I just thought that would have been a great addition into the plan of not having Marigold even more chaotic than it already is, by having an easy way in and out. Especially because they want to put additional housing there, as well as the plan on the west side to continue on, so I thought that would have been a great implementation for it. That's all I have.
Thank you. A lot of that we're at the county university as well, like I'm here. Anybody else? All right. Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing at 6:30 p.m. And we will entertain a motion, to approve the first reading of ordinance 332, amending the River PUD to include the 2.5 acres of land to allow 6-foot side yard setbacks for villa lots. We have a motion.
So moved.
I'll make that motion.
I give it to her? All right. Motion by, Councilmember Cracklow and a second by Councilmember Vogel. And we will go to a roll call.
Mayor Miller,
Aye.
Councilmembers Vogel,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Freckles,
Aye.
Motion carries. And we'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2024-28, vacating the drainage and utility easement over Outlot D, second edition of River's Edge subdivision, or whatever it says up here. I read it in the paper. Do you have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Vogel, and we'll go to roll call.
Councilmembers Robinson,
Aye.
Freckles,
Aye.
Vogel,
Aye.
Mayor Miller,
Aye. Motion carries. And we'll entertain a motion, to adopt resolution 2024-29, approve the final plat and plans of the second edition of River's Edge subdivision with conditions that finds the fact as presented by staff. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Vogel, and roll call again.
Mayor Miller,
Aye.
Councilmembers Robinson,
Aye.
Vogel,
Aye.
Freckles,
Aye.
And we are on the last one, I believe, right? Motion to approve development agreement for River's Edge seventh edition. We have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Vogel. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilmember Robinson. And roll call, please.
Mayor Miller,
Aye.
Councilmembers Freckles,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Vogel,
Aye.
Motion carries. And we'll move on to new business, item A, 3503 Bridge Street concept review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Council, before you tonight is the concept plan review for 3503 Bridge Street. Just as a reminder, kind of why we do concept plans and what their purpose is. This is really intended as a way to provide the applicant with kind of an overview or a cursory review of a specific development concept before that applicant then enters into any binding contracts or starts to incur the substantial expense that it takes to put together a formal application. So we're really trying to provide the applicant with the information about the city's regulations. If there are any areas where a concept may or may not be consistent with the city's plans or the city's regulations, we're trying to identify those upfront so that the developer can kind of understand where they stand in the development process and then make an informed decision on whether or not to move forward, how they'd like to move forward, to hopefully not waste their time and money and not waste the city's time and money either. So, the concept plan for this evening takes place at 3503 Bridge Street, which is roughly 5-acre site, that fronts along Bridge, it's fairly close to the high school, and it abuts from River North County Park. This area is former farmland that's currently vacant, or unused today. The concept plan that was provided includes 3 apartment buildings, about 44 units in each. Those would be on the north side and then the west. And then there would be 1 commercial building kind of on that southeast corner that would include drive-through facilities. That commercial building would be just a little bit over 5,000 square feet. As you can see from that concept plan, there would be a single access, proposed to use the existing access that's there today. And then you have internal circulation within the site to provide closer access to each of the buildings. So there are a few areas where this current concept does not align with city regulations, and I wanted to talk about those a little bit more in depth to hopefully get a little bit of a better idea from council on if these are areas where there would be some flexibility, or if these are areas that you know, the city really wants to hold to the existing regulations that are in place. So the regulation or the areas that we'll discuss tonight include the land use along Bridge Street, the uses that are allowed in the B1 district, the city's requirement that there only be 1 principal building per lot, and then the B1 district standards. So in the comprehensive plan today, this property has kind of a split guidance for land use. The north half is guided for high density residential use, which is 12 to 60 units per net acre. The south half along Bridge Street is guided for commercial land use. So with the concept that was provided, if you'll remember, there was that apartment building that was kind of on the southwest corner. So that proposed residential apartment would reduce the commercial land that's available along Bridge Street. And so something for council to discuss this evening is a residential building along Bridge Street appropriate in this area? Or is it important for the city to hold to a frontage that's fully commercial along Bridge? So happy to have that discussion as we move forward tonight. The next piece to discuss here is related to the uses that are permitted in the B1 district. So this site is zoned B1 central business. That district today does not allow standalone apartments. So it does allow mixed use apartments where you would have retail or office or some sort of commercial on the ground floor, and then as you move vertically up, you would have apartments. So those types of mixed use apartments are allowed, but standalone apartments today are not permitted. Drive-throughs also are something that is not permitted today. And so again, kind of the question for council to discuss would be, would the mixed uses that's proposed in that concept be something that is acceptable or desired either on this specific parcel or throughout that B1 district as a whole? Then the third item was a requirement that the city has that there only be 1 principal building allowed per lot. Within that concept, there were 4 principal buildings proposed. And so in order to do that, there are kind of 2 different paths that you could take. That would either require a subdivision, which requires that all lots have frontage on and direct access to a public street. So we'd be talking about some sort of public street access as well. Or you could look at an option for a Canadian development. Because those are allowed to have a little bit more flexibility as far as the frontage requirements and the street requirements. With a PUD, it would need to meet the intent of a PUD, and we've had discussions about that with the city before. But there are certain purpose statements for a PUD that we would be checking to ensure that meets. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the B1 district standards. And just as a reminder for kind of where these came from, the city has done a really substantial amount of planning along Bridge Street, whether it's the Bridge Street Design Guidelines, the St. Francis Forward Plan. And those plans kind of culminated in the comprehensive plan update that was done. And then when we updated the zoning code in 2021, these district standards were kind of pulled out as those most important pieces of those different plans, and were codified at that point. And so, going through the list, it talks about making sure that buildings are pulled closer to the street. Parking lots are not between Bridge Street and any principal building, having an active ground floor frontage along Bridge, making sure that there's primary entrances and transparency along those buildings. And really the intent with these that you can kind of get as you read through, the theme is that Bridge Street is intended to be kind of a pedestrian friendly, vibrant atmosphere with an active area in the city. And these district standards are really meant to encourage buildings and developments that fit that slate. So with that, you know, this is just a high level review of a general concept. Obviously, there are other details that would need to be figured out if this plan were to move forward. But there are a number of different pieces that don't fully meet the city's code or the city's plans. So there are a number of different ways that if the developer wanted to kind of advance this forward, that they could pursue that. One would just be pursuing some significant design changes in order to meet the city's standards and the city's requirements. Another option would be to look into amending the zoning code itself. This would probably be specific to the uses allowed within the B1 district or those B1 district standards. The third option would be processing this specific application as a PUD. Likely, there's probably some combination of all of these three or multiple of these three that makes the most sense rather than just one. But that's what we're hoping to get some feedback on tonight is what are the areas that you'd like to see some design changes in, or what are the areas that maybe the city's willing to do some flexibility as part of the PUD law or as part of a broader code amendment. So the Planning Commission reviewed this back in July, did provide some feedback. They noted that they prefer that the frontage along Bridge Street remains a commercial use as it's currently guided today. So you have the commercial along Bridge and then residential uses behind. They were open to allowing a drive-through in this area specifically because it does have that internal access kind of, as opposed to a double access point straight off of Bridge Street. They would want to see some consideration just for the traffic and then pedestrian connectivity. So pedestrian access, safety, and then the connections. And then they did talk a little bit about the parking between Bridge Street and the principal building and how that may be appropriate on a specific site, so long as there are some sort of trade-offs that are implemented to manage the aesthetics of that, having that parking lot in front. So managing the aesthetics and design, whether that's through landscaping or something like that. And then again, the pedestrian connectivity piece, since that's such a big part of Bridge Street. So with that, council is asked to just review the concept that was provided and offer some feedback. Are any of those potential paths that we outlined something that kind of resonates with the questions that were asked? And I can bring those discussion questions back up. Are any of those things that you have strong feelings about or that you think would be appropriate one way or another? And just a reminder that this isn't for formal action tonight. This is really just feedback. With that, I will pause and give it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Crystal, you got anything to say about the concept?
I mean, I like the concept as presented. I know it goes against the revitalized downtown plan that has been put together. But, you know, as with everything, there's always room for change. So I think it's interesting and I would like to see more details moving forward on it.
Good. Kevin?
I don't know if it's proper to ask the developers here. I know I'm the liaison to the planning and zoning. Is it proper to ask him does it speak now to give us any more insight? Because he has a vision and that might enhance our questioning.
Sure. If you'd like to step off.
Thank you.
State your name and address, director.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, my name is Jeff Weaver, I'm the president of the Weaver Brothers Company. This is Tiffany Talbot, she's our general manager. She's my boss. She's my daughter. So, we run a small family business, been in the area for over 60 years. Our office is in Anoka on Main Street, 320 East Main Street. We do commercial buildings. We do apartment buildings. We run agriculture. We do all kinds of different things. There's a picture of, do you have a picture of the building that we just built?
It's in our packets.
Picture that's in your packet is the building that we're proposing to build on the southeast corner of this 5-acre lot. Just in the name of transparency and good government, Hawkinson Anderson created this site plan. And they did that with our general contractor, who's Kinmore Construction. And we would put that same building, that same site plan, that same finish, that same look, landscaping, the whole 9 yards would be brought up to Bridge Street in St. Francis. You can see on the front of that building, when you talk about windows, and we put patios out in front of both end caps so people can have outdoor dining if they'd like. It's being well received. It works well in the city of Anoka. It's on the corner of 7th Avenue, County Road 7 and Highway 242 or Main Street in Anoka. It has similar accesses off Main Street and on 7th Avenue. That interior road that is being proposed would handle that building. The apartment buildings that you see, and I think Kevin talked about this at the planning commission, was more interested in green space up by, if I'm not mistaken, up by Bridge Street. That doesn't bother me a bit, because those apartment buildings were in there, were placeholders. We're gonna come in and do the commercial building first. We talked with Jeff Perry at the county park. We wanna make sure that integrates well with the county and the woodlands that are there. It's more foresty when you get up on that northwest corner. And it just has to work. It has to work positively for the city. It has to work positively for Anoka County, and it has to really work well for St. Francis and its residents. So it's, what you see for parking lot, I think the number of stalls were there is what would be required. They have 3 44 unit buildings. Maybe that's not the cards, maybe it'd be 2. But we would start this in a phased approach and do the commercial building first. As you can see, the drive-through has 2 drive-throughs. That system works extremely well. That building was designed by Architectural Consortium. They're one of the biggest in the state, and it works really well. We have a Dunkin' on one end, and we're just finishing out the Papa John's on the other. Unfortunately, when you build a building like this, the cost of these rents and the cost of these buildings are driving nationals to come in. And it's just the way it is these days because of the cost of building new. But what we found fascinating is Dunkin' has 4 tables in the lobby area. That's it, 4 tables. Papa John's will have no interior seating whatsoever. It's all pick up and take out. And that's why that takeout window for them is so important. It's just the trend. COVID changed the way big business runs. And it's all pick up and go, buy it on the app, run in and grab and go. It's a different animal, but that's what they are going with. So if you have any questions of us, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
No, that's it. Again, I just thought it'd be helpful to see what their thought was, and my concern with it is the parking along Bridge. In the front there, we created more of a barrier than a transparency that we were after. But again, you know, we're in the talking stage right now. I like the idea of apartments. There is apartment needs here in town, and those people as well, those apartments will add to our retail traffic and whatnot as well. So mainly the parking is the first part, and again, the gentleman talk more about being located to the south of the existing parkway. So again, urban community I'm not a pro tree hugger guy, but again, bicyclists, pedestrian stuff, I mean, the park is right to the north of these guys. People that live in this would take advantage of this stuff, it's kind of where we wanted to be 10, 15 years ago, we were talking about it, and again, the 2040 plan. Since I've been in the community, that's been a big push, and I think it'd be a good jump start. Again, these people you own your own apartment building, you said, and you.
We own an operated building in town right now that we bought that was existing, and I think police department probably doesn't have many calls over there. None. So we run a pretty tight ship. You know, I think we heard at the planning commission, I think people were afraid we come in and we buy and sell. We still have buildings we built in 1952. So we don't go anywhere. We're just a family business.
Thank you.
In general, I would agree with the planning commission, most of their input on that. Just a couple of questions I have. One is, and I don't know if there's a risk, I'm sure there is, and I'm just curious what the apartments would look like.
Well, they better be nice. So, we don't run any units that are subsidized housing units. It's all great. So I think that's probably what you're looking for.
And is this, I'm assuming there's height restrictions on this whole thing. Is this 2-story? What are we talking here?
Mayor Council, I believe, I don't know offhand, I believe we're capped at.
The 2 or 3.
Would be 3 stories, it would.
Yeah.
I can look into it and get a full answer, but it's.
We haven't built anything that's more than
I
3.
think it's 4.
You know, it has to also blend in with the landscape. Are any of you familiar with the area around Mercy Hospital? We built all those buildings on El Dorado Street, and they're all set in the woods. So it's pretty important that it operates well, people are comfortable. And, you know, it's a pretty simple philosophy. We work with our tenants are successful, so are we. And like I said earlier, we've met with Joe McPherson at Anoka County, and they gave us the blessing on that in and out because there is a left turn lane there right now. We'd have to put in a right turn lane that they talked about, and there is room to do that. On the exit of that interior road, we would have to have a right and a left turns out, so you wouldn't have a stacking issue. That's not a problem with us at all. It just has to flow well, it has to work well, it has to be user friendly. And that's what you'd see. I know one of the things you talked about, one of the things that's really important to us, and that's why we've gone through the concept plan, that's why we're here tonight. Having the ability to have those 2 rows of parking up front of that building is pretty critical for us in that site plan for that building to work correctly. It makes the drive-throughs be able to work also. So that's one thing that we need to know, that if we keep moving forward, that's something that we're gonna be able to do.
I mean, for me, I guess, I love the idea of the apartments, I love the idea of commercial, I love the idea of second whack, the tax generation, all that fun stuff, right, that's gonna help us, move forward. The list of exceptions, I think, was kind of crazy for what we put into with our plans to begin with. So I mean, I'm not saying yes, but I'm not saying no. I guess I'm kind of up in the air with how does this affect our overall ability to keep that feel that we're going for, you know, and how critical is it to keep that? You know, I think apartments being there in that location isn't bad. I'm not against definitely not against I don't think you need to split the lots up and all that stuff. I think that's a little excessive personally, that's just my opinion, but unless legally for some reason we have to do it, that'd be a whole different story, but, I don't know, that's just kind of where my head's at right now. I mean, I love the idea of, the development coming here. I'm just not sure about the layout. Again, I'm not here to redesign it or tell you what to do. That's just something that I think we put a lot of time and effort into as far as getting that vision of Bridge Street. But I definitely don't want to lose the development either because of that, right? So I'm kind of up in the air with all that stuff, that's just my initial thoughts on it.
And I understand and I appreciate it. We look at it for what is gonna be successful and what is gonna work for the community, what's gonna work for us and what's gonna work for the tenants. And it's a 5 acre parcel, so it's a lot bigger than one lot.
Yeah.
And so it has the ability to be unique. But when you look at all your surrounding properties, there isn't anybody that's built out on the street. The closest one's your hardware store. And he still has a row of parking between Bridge Street.
The city buildings, but.
City
That's right.
So, I mean, it's a simple thing. I mean,
No,
we
I
either do it or we're gonna say, see ya, and we'll be talking to Kate for a escrow refund.
But those are just my initial thoughts, I
Okay.
mean, that's my feedback, I guess, it's an interesting concept, I don't know, I mean. I'm not against it, but I'm not necessarily say, yeah, I'm not gonna vote for it, I just wonder too, how much of that is, that's something I'd like to talk, with staff about too, I think is. Somewhat of our vision, that's one person out of 5, right?
It's always nice to have a unanimous decision. I sit in your seats. I get what you got
I know.
going through. I'm late for our meeting in Minnesota.
That's just my initial thoughts, like I say.
Okay.
Nothing to discourage anybody or anything like that, that's just my initial thoughts, so. And we got Sarah that's not here, unfortunately, and. We'll move forward, I guess, with, those are just that's like, right, it's just initial thoughts.
Yep, so Mayor and Council, really just looking for, any direction you have. If you have thoughts on the different approaches, whether that's a PUD that makes the most sense, that might be the most.
I think it would have to be a PUD, wouldn't it, like any of those were.
Well, the PUD allows flexibility. If it's not a PUD, then it would be either meeting the city's requirements, requesting variances, or doing some sort of code amendment or amendments. So there's options, but it's kind of understanding what parts are, what areas may need more flexibility than others. So if the concern is more on those B1 district standards, that may be something that's more appropriate to handle either just, through design of the building or through PUD. If there's concern about uses, which it doesn't sound like that's as much of a concern based on what I've heard, then that may be something to solve a different way. So, are there, if I pull up this district standards, are there district standards that, maybe are or aren't appropriate for this type of development that you could see being more important or less important than others?
Question here. Is it possible that the retail section, that should be your anchor point from the sounds of it? Is it possible to turn it 90 degrees, even though I know they like the frontage and people can see their marquees and stuff from the front, from Bridge Street. But if you turn it 90 degrees, so the one drive-in is on the south and one drive-in is on the north, but you're still having parking and all that stuff, is that applicable by, in any means?
You're gonna take away that visibility, and that's a big piece of the puzzle, that curb appeal.
Right,
Curb appeal and a pickup window aren't as adept to some wonderful brickwork, lattice work, a lot of cool awnings,
right.
a lot of nice windows, signage, the whole 9 yards. It takes away a little bit of that curb appeal.
And we're thinking about our curb, you're thinking about your curb, so that's what I was,
Well,
I get it,
Kevin, I know what you want. I know what we have to do.
yeah.
And if it's not gonna be a good fit, maybe it's best we move on.
And do you have to have the parking on both sides and I can see in front of the building, but would you need the reverse street side as well? I mean, could you have additional parking
That's
elsewhere for
the backside, if you take and circle just the orange building and the parking that's in front and the drive-through, that's what you're gonna need probably to suffice for the commercial use. The parking that's on the north and to the west were for the apartments. So that would not be built until you went in and did your apartments. And that could change because you're gonna have garages. You don't know if we're gonna have underground parking. Those are just placeholders. The parking that's gonna be needed for the commercial side is what's shown in that southeast corner. So I think there's probably 42 spots there.
Okay.
It might be 36. I can't remember what that number is.
Well, if I'm understanding this correctly, the apartment buildings as slated are just kind of placeholders.
Placeholders, absolutely,
They're not, at the moment, they're not critical to the project.
absolutely not.
And we do or don't have additional time to talk about this. Tonight's the night that we say, hi, how are you, or
Well, I'm gonna,
See you later.
we're gonna.
this is the first time these guys have been able to see it. I actually got to see
And
it.
I can be patient for a little bit, but there's a point where we're gonna have to start spending some money
Sure.
for, environmental testing. We've got a building there, maybe the fire department wants to burn it down, I don't know. But, that might be a good test for them too, but there's a lot of work that needs to get done.
Sure.
There's a slab, and an old barn, all this has to come out of there and get cleaned up. Site preparation, engineering, soil tests, you name it. A lot of things have to happen. And it gets very costly, very quickly.
Especially when winter's coming as well.
Well, yeah.
I'm not hard pressed to, it'd be nice to have additional time to talk about it. I mean, I understand the vision and, the pedestrian portion of it in the front and whatnot. I would hate to see something like this pass us by, but I also don't want a gun in my ribs. So that's where I'm at too. It'd be nice to have additional time to talk about it, vet it out. Again, the buck stops here and we have to answer for how much change we get back, so.
Yes, it does.
If
That's
we
why
have-
you get paid the big bucks.
Yeah,
Do we have any time to put set aside for the next, what is it, 12, or is that pretty back tight, or what do we got?
Mayor and council, we already have 4 items on the 12th. And then the next week, the 19th is a council meeting, and then the next Monday would be the 26th, but you're getting 4 weeks out.
we've had some pretty lean meetings here this summer. We've banked some time that we have not used, and this is worthy of additional discussion. I hate to drag admin into it too, but we're all in this together.
Well, I guess, like I said, the only thing I wondered about was all that time, the same one other project on Bridge Street, whether or not that's gonna be a reality. I mean, like you said, the hardware's close, but you're still parking in front.
Right,
The dental office we just did too with the additional parking, which is just a parking lot.
but it's in front.
But it's in front.
The strip mall, all right across from City Hall, parking's in front. The bank, the parking's in front, Casey's. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
That's just destroy their whole desire to have anything be the way it is. Which
Right.
I don't know if in the future when that would be either. I don't know even know what to think about that, to be honest with you.
And Sarah deserves some input in as well, I would think.
Are we able to? I think we should squeeze it in on the 12th, then, if that's what you're saying, to add to the work session on 12th, right? To get it dealt with before the next.
It's either 6 minutes or 45 minutes talking about it, one or the other. I mean,
Right.
we don't want to waste the gentleman's time either.
I don't know.
Do you have any leeway as far as the way you see it here? Now you've heard the second group panel talk about it. Do you have any leeway to any compromise at all? And I know what your customers must, it sounds like you know exactly what your customers want. Is there any variation whatsoever?
I think the biggest, Kevin, I think the biggest leeway and opportunity to have bigger discussions about the settings, the size, the finish, the look is gonna be on the residential side of things. That commercial building that we built You can put it back up. That's a pretty first class, all brick building. I don't know what more else you would want. I mean, that's about as good as you're gonna get.
And you're saying this would be identical to that?
Yeah, that's our plan. Absolutely. That's a slick design. It's done well. And I got prints. It's a no-brainer.
Well, I'm open to set aside time needed. Like I said, we've had a really lean summer as far as time. We had 16-minute meetings, and we had 22-minute meetings, and I'd like to give our customers their money's worth. And this is well worth the conversation, whatever it takes. Or a special meeting outside of a work session. Again, I hate to drag admin into it, but this is what we're here for.
What do you think would be better as far as throwing on the work session than that too, or?
Mayor and council, we could start with this, and then that way we wouldn't be wasting Mr. Weaver's entire night.
Okay,
While we go through other items, and then we can get through it, when we get through it, I'll keep going. So,
okay, we'll do that.
and Beth just confirmed she is also available, so.
Okay.
And that's a work session then, or?
Work session on the.
Work session.
And that's kind of where we sit around in our casuals, it's a spitball time, and you're welcome to come, we don't usually have interaction. I almost speak for the mayor, but we don't usually have interaction, but again,
We have no problem coming in.
it's a comfortable
If
setting.
there's
Let's say-
questions to be answered, we're very close.
Sorry, Mr. Council Member, are you zooming in that night though, or?
On the 12th,
Yeah,
I would be, but I'd
is
be,
that gonna
yeah,
work still? Okay. Okay,
Yeah, I'm good with that. I agree with Kevin, I think we need to let it out more, and just, like I say, talk about more and more for the residents, and then the overall view of Bridge Street. We went through that whole, St. Francis forward planning guide. Stuff from everybody in the community, you know, the people that did participate, I should say. So.
let's give you a chance for a field trip to see the building they're talking about.
Please do. I've seen it, but I haven't like looked at it closely. I was wondering what the hell it was gonna be for quite some time, and then I seen it turn into a Dunkin' Donuts eventually, but my family's from there, so got a lot of family members down there. All right,
Is that Billy by chance?
who's that?
Bill Milgar, is that the same?
No, I don't know him.
Okay,
I don't know Bill Muehlbauer.
okay.
I know Bill, but he's my cousin, but he's not a Muehlbauer.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Moving on to second meeting open up to public. Anybody have anything that they want to? That's up.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, take your name and address for the record, please.
Hunter Carlson, 23563 Marigold Street, so, this is kind of, piggybacking off of what, Weaver was saying, is I actually got to, talk to him about it earlier, because I was very curious about this whole plan, and just wanted to reiterate that I think it'd be a great idea to go take a field trip out there, and I think that'd be, get some Dunkin' Donuts while you're at it, and I think that'd be a great way of knowing whether or not this works, and, also the green space, I think is a great idea. And like how he was talking about implementing it into another county, making it fade well, I think that's a very important thing that we should try and address with doing this plan, is make sure that it doesn't hinder anything with the parks. So, cause that's back to what Delvin would say, is it schools, parks, and some other thing, I don't remember what it is, but parks and parks and parks, so. That's all I got, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Reports, fire department monthly report.
Mayor and council, for your review, is the fire department monthly report for the month of June. As you'll note on our report, we did see a slight increase in our response times up to 8 minutes and 6 seconds, but well below our goal of under 10 minutes. Excuse me, we did also see a slight increase in our run volume for the month of June compared to last year, from 55 runs up to 64. The statistic that I'm actually very excited to share with you tonight is we saw a pretty significant increase in our firefighters per call. We jumped from 5.4 to 7.3 on the month. So anytime we have more people showing up, it's highly advantageous for us to be a little bit more effective. We saw the gap close a little bit on our fire versus EMS run distribution. We saw our fire runs creep up a little bit in the month of June, which isn't uncommon as we roll into the summer months. For our variance usage, we were short-lived with our 0 response times over 20 minutes from our ambulance partners. We did flag 2 on the month. But we also did assist in the ambulance 3 times on the month, which is usually an indication that our acuity of events was a little bit higher. Well, And I'm pleased to report that we had 6 initial inspections with 5 re-inspections for a total of 11 site visits on the month for our fire protection code enforcement program. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me tonight.
Questions, Crystal?
I don't have any questions.
Mark?
I do not.
Kevin?
No questions, a good report as usual, appreciate all you guys do, you're still living under cramped quarters over there, and looking forward to, the big open house. But, thank you very much for your help.
Thank you, sir.
No questions, just thank you and the entire department for everything you guys do.
Will do, thank you, sir.
And we have a public works quarterly report, but Paul is sick, so Kate, what do we have? Just call in if we have questions.
Mayor and council, correct. Paul went home ill. If you have any questions about his report, you can definitely reach out to him, or you can wait for the next meeting and ask questions.
I have a question, who helped me with the cool graphics? Darcy?
No.
Council member reports, Crystal, what's everything new?
I haven't had the ability to do much within St. Francis this month. As everyone knows, I'm dealing with some family medical things, so nothing to report from me.
Thank you. And we wish you and your family well too, Crystal.
Thank you.
Kevin?
I attended the planning zone meeting last, July, and, I got a heads up on what was coming on our agenda tonight. It's really nice, and I greatly appreciate a full commission that showed up, the last 2 meetings. The last 2 meetings, we got a full house, so it's nice. There's a lot of interaction and dialogue, which is not normal, and it's nice to see it becoming normal. So, and they really, the foundation of what we see, so it's really good to see. I also attended, the joint law enforcement council meeting with the, chief. That was very informative, 90 minutes, and there's a heck of a view on the 7th floor of the Anoka County Government Center. And those guys, the attorney, has a great view up there, but, it's very informative, again, police chiefs and several mayors from around the 7 county, our Anoka County area. It was very informative, I enjoyed doing it, so I appreciate you inviting me.
And our new council member, Mark Vogel. You got anything to report?
Well, thanks again for bringing me on, and I'll have reports in the future.
Alright. Well, I attended the Anoka County Fire Protection Council, also the special meeting we had, to appoint Mr. Vogel here. And I'm just excited for, tomorrow night's National Night Out, from 5 to 7:30 at the park. So I will be in the dunk tank if you have any of your, animosities to get out. I don't know what time they do that shift.
There's, I don't think they're gonna ship it anymore, but last year the fire department did temper the water that was in the tubs. That was very nice, and it was a nice surprise, come down there, it's like, it's a couple of 74. So,
All right, but yeah, other than that, I guess I have nothing, further to report, so now we have this script here. Yeah. All right, in a few minutes, I'm going to be closing this meeting under Minnesota statute section 13D.03 subdivision 1. That's sec, I guess. Yeah. The city council has the ability to move into a closed meeting to the governing committee of a city, maybe a majority vote, and a public meeting decide to hold a closed meeting to consider strategy for labor negotiations, including negotiation strategies or developments or discussion and review of labor negotiation proposals. The labor negotiations are a proposal between the city of St. Francis and LELS 319 and 411. I now ask for a motion to move the meeting into a closed session for discussion of labor negotiations. Everybody motion.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilmember Robinson. Do we have a second?
Okay.
Second by Councilmember Vogel, and do we have a roll call again, you guys? For the motion. All right, roll call.
Mayor Muehlbauer,
Aye.
Councilmembers Vogel,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Peckwell,
Aye.
I'm now closing this meeting at 7:13 p.m.
Thank you very much.